Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday's Literacy, lesson number 2 of the Great Kapok Tree. And today we're going to be concentrating on creating a story map, looking in particular at the animals and other characters that appear in the story. So what I'm looking for is for you to demonstrate that you know what the key events of the story are, being able to work, it says as a group, that's for children in school, but to be able to create a story map and to try and add in more detail using the text as a basis for that as well. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off today by listening to the model text again. So I'm going to read it and you can follow along with your model text at home as well, or you could be performing the actions if you can remember them from yesterday whilst I'm reading it. That's up to you. Right, the Great Kapok Tree. One hot sunny day, two men walked into the rainforest. The larger man pointed to a great kapok tree and then left. The smaller man took his heavy axe and struck the trunk of the tree with all his might. Whack, whack, whack! Chop, chop, chop! Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest underneath the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest had lulled him into a deep and peaceful sleep. A long, strong boa constrictor with fierce yellow eyes lived in the kapok tree. Suddenly, he slowly slithered down to where the man was sleeping and hissed in his ear, "Señor, this is a tree of miracles. It is my home where all of my family have lived. Do not chop it down." As suddenly as he appeared, he disappeared again amongst the long grass which covered the rainforest floor. Then a troop of excitable monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree, their long tails flicking the air behind them. They chattered hurriedly to the sleeping man. "Señor, you chop down one tree and then another. Without these trees there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the rain comes, the soil will be washed away and the forest will become a desert." The monkeys then scrambled back to their favourite tree, which was opposite the man, found their favourite branch and sat and watched to see what would happen next. Next, a small bright green frog with crimson red eyes crawled along a leaf which was gently swaying in the light breeze, tickling the man's ear. He quietly squeaked into the man's ear, "Señor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives. You will leave us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree." Once he had said this message, the frog turned and hopped away, taking shelter within a nearby clump of jade-green leaves. A few minutes later, 4 porcupines scampered down from the tree, their great spikes sticking up on end menacingly. They gently whispered to the man, "Señor, do you know what all animals and humans need to live? Oxygen. And do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the trees, you will destroy what gives us life." Then they ambled off across the rainforest in search of water, for they were extremely thirsty. Finally, a jaguar leapt down from a branch and padded over to the man, growling, "Señor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner?" A little while later, a small child from a nearby tribe who lived in the rainforest tipped over to the man and knelt beside him. He murmured softly in his ear, "Señor, when you awake, please look at us with new eyes." The small child then edged away and sat back on a rock, watching the man intently. The man awoke with a start. All around him stood the creatures who depended upon the great kapok tree. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the trees. He smelled the flowers and he felt the mist rising from the forest floor, but he heard no sound. The creatures were strangely silent. The man picked up his axe and swung back his arm ready to strike the tree. Suddenly he stopped and looked at the animals and the child. He dropped the axe and walked out of the magnificent rainforest. Okay, I hope you managed to follow along with your model text, or perhaps you were doing the actions. Brilliant, either way it's going to help you remember what the story is. Right, so the first thing I'd like you to do today is, with your model text in front of you, is to write a list of animals in the order that they appear. So if you just pause the video now and do that into your jotters, don't forget to write a date so we know what date this work was done on. Pause the video now. Fantastic. Right, hopefully you've managed to do that. Here is the list I have. So we've got a boa constrictor, monkeys, green frog, porcupines, jaguar, and a small child. Hopefully that's what you've got too. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this today. Oops, this has gone a bit awry. Let me just move that out the way. There we go. Also, I want you to have a think about it, because each character said something to the man. I want you to think about, what did they say and why is it important what they said? What were they trying to prevent? And you're going to need this in a minute. So for your next activity, you'll need to have your model text next to you to help you. And this is on the website, and again, you don't have to print it off. If you want, you could just draw this into your books, or you can screenshot and then edit and then screenshot your edited version and upload that to Dojo if you like. But what I'd like you to do is to put in the characters into each of these boxes. So for example, the first one is boa constrictor. Not sure if it's going to let me do it. Yes, it is. So I might have in here, I'm going to write it. I'm going to tell you what I'd like you to do. Strictor. Not a lot of room. Oh dear. Not a lot of good spelling either. What on earth happened here? Constrictor. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is write what the animal is like this, and let me just move that up here. Oh, it's not going to do it. There we go. And then draw a picture of your boa constrictor. It should have a speech bubble. I don't know why it doesn't, so I'm going to move that one there. Okay, so you would draw your picture of your boa constrictor here, and then you'd write in here the words that the boa constrictor says. So if I have a quick look at my model text, it said, oh, he didn't say anything. He hissed. Hissed. Signor, this is a tree of miracles. I'm not going to write it all because obviously this typing is way too big. Signor, this is a tree of miracles. Okay, so he says more than that, but yeah, I can't quite fit it in. I have to make it that small to fit it in. So then I'd write in here what that character said, and I'd draw a picture of the character. So we create a story map that way of the characters that we saw all the way through the story. Here you can have a little starting piece. You could have perhaps an introductory couple of lines, what happens right at the start, what happens right at the end. Okay, so that's what I'm asking you to do today. Now, just before you go on and do that, just let's finish off this bit. This is a transformation story. And what do we mean by that? What is a transformation story? So transformation story is about how something changes from the beginning to the end, and we're focusing on the man. How has he changed from the beginning of the story to the end? He's dropped his axe, and why? And what do we think the woodcutter should do next? Okay, so I want you to do this first as I showed you. So if you pause the video and do this, and when you've done that, come back to the video. Okay, hopefully you finished your story plan. Fantastic. Have a think about these questions that we looked at before about the transformation story. Have a go at answering them. You can write them into your book. In particular, how do you think the man has changed from the beginning of the story to the end? Remember to write it in sentences. I'm not looking for one-word answers. I'm looking for some sentences that start with I think and because, a bit like when we're doing our guided reading activities. And the same here. I think the woodcutter drops his axe because. And what do you think the woodcutter should do next? So he's walking out of the forest. He's not chopped down the kapok tree. What should he do next? Okay, and write those all in your jotter. That's for the plenary part of our lesson. So hopefully by the end of this lesson, you've got your story map and you'll have had a bit of reflecting on the story and come up with a few ideas of what you think is going to happen next. Fantastic. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for Wednesday's literacy lesson.